Have you ever felt tired of fighting alone, like you were carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders? Sometimes we try to work things out in our own strength, but there are times when we simply need to let go of control and trust in something bigger. Today, I'm going to show you what happens when you give everything to God and stop fighting alone. Believe me, this decision can completely transform your life. Before we dive into this content that could be a turning point in your journey, I ask you to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. This is very important because in addition to helping me continue to bring you messages that can strengthen you, it guarantees that you won't miss any inspiring content that will come next. Now, I invite you to pay attention to every detail of this video because in it we will explore moments of great reflection and perhaps you will see yourself in some of the situations we will address. The key to transformation may lie in something you haven't yet realized, and this change may happen throughout this video. So, allow yourself to live this complete experience. In the end, you will understand why letting God guide your steps could be the answer you have been looking for so long. Now, get ready, because what you will discover here could change the way you face life's challenges. Every day, on some level, we fight silent battles. It could be the pressure of solving problems at work, dealing with family issues, or even our own insecurities. Often, these conflicts are not external, but internal, and they make us feel like we are alone facing a storm. We carry concerns that we don't share with anyone, trying to solve everything alone, believing that the solution is in our hands. This weight, however, begins to slowly consume us, draining our energy and moving us away from the peace we seek so much. What few realize is that we are constantly carrying an invisible burden. We become experts at masking our struggles and smiling on the outside, while on the inside we feel the weight of responsibilities, expectations, and frustrations. But were we made to carry all this alone? The feeling that everything depends solely on us can be one of the greatest illusions in life, because deep down we know that certain things are beyond our control, and this only increases anxiety and the feeling of helplessness. In trying to control what cannot be controlled, we end up engaging in a losing battle. We want to ensure that everything goes according to our plans, that things follow the path we believe is best. But the reality is that many aspects of life are beyond our reach, such as the reactions of others, unexpected events, and even our own future. In this attempt to manipulate the uncontrollable, we fall into the cycle of frustration and fear. This is where the question arises: why do we insist on fighting this fight without help? For many, asking for help, or even accepting that we need it, is seen as a sign of weakness. We live in a culture that values self-reliance, where being strong means handling everything alone. However, true strength lies in recognizing our limits. We weren't meant to walk alone, and when we try to do so, we inevitably end up feeling exhausted. Life is full of challenges that we cannot face alone, and this is a lesson that many learn the hard way. The tiredness that comes from this incessant struggle often leaves us empty. It's a feeling of exhaustion that goes beyond the physical. It is emotional, mental, and spiritual. There comes a point where we ask ourselves, is it worth it to keep trying this way? Often, the answer is right in front of us, but our resistance to letting go prevents us from seeing it. Giving everything to God may seem like a simple attitude, but it is one of the most difficult and at the same time most transformative decisions we can make. There is a moment in our lives when, after so many failed attempts, we finally realize that our efforts have limits. It could be the loss of something important, a relationship that falls apart, or a goal that seems unattainable. It is at this point of exhaustion that many come to a profound truth: we cannot do everything alone. This moment, although painful, is the turning point. Recognizing our own limits is the first step towards genuine transformation, because it is when we accept that there are greater forces at work beyond our ability to control. When we talk about giving everything to God, many people wonder what that really means. It's not just giving up or crossing your arms and waiting for something magical to happen. Surrender is an act of faith, a conscious decision to place our worries, fears, and desires in God's hands, trusting that He has a bigger, and better plan for us. It's recognizing that even if we don't understand what's happening right now, we can trust that God is in control and that He will guide us along the right path. However, one of the biggest obstacles to this delivery is the fear of losing control. We are taught to believe that in order to be successful, we need to be in charge of all areas of our lives. Giving up this control is terrifying for many because it means accepting that we don't have all the answers and that the future is uncertain. But it is precisely in this uncertainty that faith flourishes. When we stop fighting what we can't change, we begin to realize that true peace comes from trusting that there is a purpose in everything, even in difficulties. Throughout history, many people have found transformation by placing their lives in God's hands. Stories of overcoming, healing, and restoration are living testimonies of how surrender can change everything. Whether it was a moment of despair or deep reflection, these people decided to stop fighting alone and trust fully in God. The result? A peace that goes beyond human understanding, a new strength to face challenges, and a renewed hope for the future. These examples show us that when we let God lead, things begin to align in surprising ways. This inexplicable peace that accompanies surrender is something that words often cannot describe. It's a feeling of relief, as if a weight has been lifted from our shoulders. It doesn't mean that problems magically disappear, but that we now have the conviction that we are not alone. There is a greater force watching over us, and it gives us the courage to continue, even when the road seems difficult. When we surrender everything to God, we begin to see challenges with a new perspective, knowing that each difficulty can be an opportunity for growth and learning. There is a big difference between surrendering something to God and simply giving up. Giving up is giving up without hope. It is losing faith that things can improve. Surrendering, on the other hand, is a conscious and faith-filled act. When we surrender our problems and anxieties to God, we are not abandoning the fight, but recognizing that we cannot fight alone. We are trusting that God, in His infinite wisdom, has a plan that goes beyond what we can currently understand. It's like saying, "I did what I could. Now it's up to you, Lord." It is important to remember that God does not demand perfection from us. He doesn't expect us to be able to figure everything out on our own. What He wants is for us to trust Him, to place our faith in His hands, and allow Him to guide our steps. We often feel overwhelmed because we believe that we need to do everything right, that any mistake can lead us to failure. But God knows our limitations, and He is more interested in our confidence than our performance. He wants us to come to Him with our fears and failures so that He can strengthen us. One of God's greatest promises is rest. In Matthew 11, verse 28, Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." That's a powerful promise, especially for those who are feeling worn down by the daily struggle. When we give our burdens to God, He gives us rest, not just physical, but emotional and spiritual. That constant weight we carry begins to dissipate when we recognize that we don't have to deal with everything alone. This rest is the manifestation of the peace that comes from surrender. The Bible is full of teachings about trusting God's plan. From the stories of Moses, David, to Jesus Himself, we see examples of people who faced unimaginable challenges, but who found strength in trusting in God. Psalm 37 verse 5 reminds us, "Commit your way to the Lord, trust in Him, and He will do the rest." This trust doesn't mean that everything will always be easy or that we will understand every event in our lives, but it does mean that we can rest in the knowledge that God is in control, even when things seem confusing or difficult. Often the signs that we are struggling alone are subtle but powerful. Constant anxiety, emotional fatigue, the feeling that we are always chasing something unattainable. These are signs that we are not giving our problems to God. When we try to solve everything with our own strength, we end up exhausting ourselves. It's times like these when we need to stop, reflect, and ask ourselves, am I trusting God or trying to carry this burden alone? Recognizing these signs is the first step towards change. When we truly surrender our concerns to God, our perspective changes. What once seemed like an unsolvable problem is now seen in a new light. Not that the challenges disappear, but our way of dealing with them changes. We begin to see difficulties as opportunities to grow, not as insurmountable obstacles. This shift in perspective is one of the greatest blessings that surrender can bring. It's as if we have a broader view of life, where the focus stops being on our immediate problems and starts being on the greater purpose that God has for us. Prayer is an essential tool in this delivery process. When we pray, we are opening a channel of communication with God, allowing Him to guide and strengthen us. Prayer helps us release our worries and anxieties, trusting that God is listening and working on our behalf. It's not just a moment to vent, but an act of trust and faith. The more we pray, the more we are able to surrender our fears and anxieties into God's hands, and the more we realize His presence in our lives. Prayer constantly reminds us that we are not alone on this journey. Surrender to God is tested, especially in difficult times. When we face situations that challenge us deeply, our faith is put to the test. It's easy to trust God when everything is going well, but the real test comes in the storms of life. It is in these moments that we are called to exercise unwavering faith, believing that even if circumstances seem unfavorable, God is working on something greater. These trying times, although painful, help us strengthen our confidence and grow spiritually. This surrender also has a profound impact on our relationships. When we trust God to guide our lives, we let go of the need to control those around us. This allows us to be more patient, loving, and understanding towards others. Instead of demanding that others meet our expectations, we come to accept that each person is also on their own journey with God. This understanding creates more harmony and strengthens bonds, as we become less prone to judgment and more willing to forgive. Living with the certainty that God is in control brings a peace that the world cannot offer. No matter what happens around us, we have the conviction that God is working for our good, even when we can't understand it. This certainty allows us to walk through life more lightly, knowing that, in the end, everything will fall into place according to the divine plan. It is a life based on faith, where we no longer need to fight alone or despair. We know that God is with us, guiding us at every step, and that makes all the difference. I hope this video touched your heart and helped you reflect on the importance of placing your battles in God's hands. When we stop fighting alone and trust Him, we find a peace that goes beyond understanding. If this message made sense to you, don't forget to like and share with someone who also needs to hear this. Now, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any new content and turn on the notification bell. I always bring reflections that can transform your life and strengthen your faith. And speaking of transformation, I have an upcoming video you don't want to miss. In it, we will continue exploring this topic, and I will show you how to live a full life with the certainty that God is in control. Click on the suggested video now and discover how to take the next step in your journey of faith. Trust me, this continuity may be exactly what you need to see even more profound changes in your life. See you there.